Hello everyone. Today I'm not really going to do an intro for this because this video is going to be pretty low-key. It's more of like a filler video because I have not posted any long-form content in literal months, but I do have 2 videos, the art for them complete. I just hate editing so much, but the pieces themselves are complete. I just need to piece it together. So this video is pretty much just my watercolor painting process. I thought it would be good to do an actual painting because I have been doing so much digital art recently, and then I just recently realized I hadn't done anything. My sketchbook, I hadn't touched it in weeks, and I just really wanted to do something. Because it was my first time in a long time, I didn't want to do anything crazy. I just decided to stick with a face. I think this video will be a fun process to see my steps when I'm creating something, even though there hardly are any. It's very disorganized. I just kind of add what feels right. As you can see, for like the start, I just block in the colors, keeping the areas that are going to have highlight on the face the lightest, like the forehead and the upper cheek, along with the bridge of the nose and the tip of the nose. I start outlining the hair. I decided on kind of wavy-ish hair. I gave it a lot of angular edges and like inorganic shapes just to make it appear a bit more interesting. I did accidentally make like the right side hair like 4 times more voluminous than I did for the left, but we're just going to ignore that. At the moment, the colors are super washed out, pale, and just very light in general, so I'm darkening the shadows, which is mostly the right side of the face. I kind of wanted to make it seem like there was a little bit more light hitting the left side. To be honest, it is incredibly unclear where the light is coming from exactly. I started trying to make the facial features more prominent so it doesn't really blend in as much, so I started defining the nose more, and I also started defining the eyes. And then I thought it would be interesting if I made it less just blue on the face and started taking in some of the purple that I used for the hair. I struggled so much for the lips. I think you could probably tell because they look really whack right now. But I had to redo those like 4 separate times. Anyway, I just continued trying to put more life into the cheeks. I finally went back to try to fix the mouth. It didn't really help because I kept making it too defined, so it looked too cartoony and way too outliney compared to the rest of it where everything was really subtle, so the mouth like being entirely outlined was super duper jarring. I was getting a little bit sick of the face, so I just moved back to the hair, doing the same thing where I was bringing in the darker colors and started coloring it. I also started to add some like flyaway hairs just to give it some more movement, if that makes sense. Now comes for the hair, the actual hard part, like defining each strand and clump of hair so it actually looks like it locks instead of just one big mass. This is something I particularly struggle with in watercolors because with a pencil it's way easier to define individual hairs and make it look very delicate. However, I find it a bit harder to go in with watercolors and add the same amount of detail, so I'm just trying to do the general shape. I kind of got rid of all of the highlighted areas I made for the hair and just went back to the face. I kept switching back and forth between what I was doing because I'd work on something and I'd get so sick of it or I'd mess up so bad, so I just moved to the next thing and ignore it for later. I finished the nose and now I'm back in the trenches with the mouth, which I continue to struggle with despite the fact that I had already messed up like 4 times before and taken a break, but I just couldn't get it to look nice. I think it might be because I didn't give enough room for the top lip, because the top lip is practically touching the nose, but we're gonna ignore that blunder of anatomy and just focus on everything else going on. This is the reason you should go off of reference pictures and not just like a gut feeling. Finally, I settled on a classic, the Kim Possible lip, just the darker top lip. It actually made it easier to almost think about putting like the lips on, like putting on lipstick or putting on makeup. I think it made it like easier to not mess up on. Now I was back on the hair, trying to make it more defined and more interesting. I did some of that off camera, and I made it a lot more warmer with some more purples instead of the blues. As you can see, I started trying to add more colors. I added this bright yellow. I don't know if it kind of ruins it by breaking the cool color scheme, but I did it just in a fling of the moment kind of thing. I think it looks okay. I was trying to use it to like accentuate the highlights because I felt like some of the places I wanted the light to hit were just blending in. Like I said earlier, I did not have a clear idea of where the light was coming from in the slightest. I further complicated the color palette by adding green to bridge the gap between the yellow and the cool colors. Now that I had established these new colors in the color palette, I took them and I started adding them back into the hair to, again, make it just more interesting and add more depth to it. Because, again, at the moment, it's just kind of looking like a blob. There's not a lot of defined curls or defined locks of hair. I got really locked into the right side and I just completely forgot about the left, and then I realized that I had to also do that. The face and hair is kind of giving like the porcelain doll makeup that was really popular like towards the beginning of the year. If y'all know what I'm talking about, I'll put like a picture up on screen. Despite the lips looking perfectly fine, I decided to work on them again for some unknown reason. I also tried to put the eyeballs, like the pupils or whatever, in, but it just looked freaky. So then I just got rid of them and did the eyebrows instead. I am still continuing to neglect the left side of the hair and just work on anything else. The eyebrows are so uneven, it's painful. I kept messing them up. I kept putting one way higher up than the other. It's safe to say this whole painting is pretty lopsided, especially the face, the like nose and mouth are very crooked. For quite a while, I'm just working on little finicky things and going around trying to make everything even and stuff. So I did the eyebrows. They're still uneven, but they're less uneven. So let's just count that as an improvement. I did the chin more. I just doing the stupid little things like I said already. I think I was just doing anything to avoid doing the left side of the hair. For some reason, it was so awkward for me. I had so much trouble with it for very little reason. And I kept messing up on the pupil of the eyes. I think it's just hard to get them to look the same considering I accidentally made the eyes completely different sizes. After hyping myself up, I decided to finally do the left, and I was absolutely convinced the moment I put down that dark pigment that I had absolutely ruined things instantly, but I just needed to like blend it out some. Everything I did about the left side just seemed and looked forced. As you can see, like as I tried to add the colors, none of it looked natural. It was very like square and like clunky. I did what I could and just ended up finishing it off anyways. I made both the hair on each side the same length. This is the finished piece. Despite all its flaws, I really like the colors. I hope y'all enjoyed. Goodbye. I'm gonna put up another picture of the finished piece, this time with the finished background. Bye-bye.